Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today my guest is Eric Fang, and he is a CEO over at Sky Tower Investments Limited. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, Eric, so this has been one of my favorite interview series that I've done in a long time. So for everybody that's tuning in, this is part of our FII priority interview series that we went out to Miami for our FII priority and 2025, and it was just such a great time. And we got to meet a lot of the other leaders that attended, and we've been bringing many of them on our show. Eric is one of those. So first thing, Eric, I want to get into is FII priority. Like, talk to me about your experience. I don't think we quite got to cross paths, but I'm not going to lie, that was a busy couple of days. So how was your experience?
That was a great experience, Adam. So, if you notice that the Sky Tower Investments, we formed our investment company in Saudi Arabia 2 years ago. We have been engaged with every ministry level as that you can imagine possible. And one of the key elements of our engagement was with PIF, which is the sovereign fund. And you all know this FII priority or FII conference was basically established by PIF. And we knew all the senior management of PIF, and we knew all the senior management of FII Institute. Richard Atias is a friend of ours, and we have been very, very admire what his success over the past 10 years on this FII initiative.
Yeah, I'm just quite impressed. I'm not going to say I was late to the party, but this is my first year coming. I've covered big conferences like Milken Global Conference and a bunch of others for a long time, and I had a really good buddy of mine out there. His name's Christopher Kine. He's like, Adam, you got to come out here. You got to be part of this. And I'm like, okay, well, I trust you. So if you say I need to be there, I need to be there. But it completely exceeded all of my expectations, honestly. I was like, wait a minute, how many years has this been going on? Why am I I'm not going to say I'm always in the know, but I'm like, year 3 in, I'm like, how come nobody else told me what's going on? A couple people were like, I did tell you, Adam, you just weren't listening. I'm like, well, you should have told me more strongly.
Adam, it was amazing. So when you're looking at the FII, which is Saudi Arabia initiated the conference many years ago, this year in 2025 will be the 9th, right? I hope I will see you in October there. We will be there on the 9th. Over 9 years, I didn't even know this is existing, okay? Until 2 years ago, we were like, wow, we need to get in there. But the moment you get in there, the atmosphere, the energy that just sucks you in there, you can never get out.
Yep.
I have never, I'm in the U.S. for 40 years. I know all the conferences. We go to many conferences, but the concentration of subject and the elite that join this conference, it's a world class. There's nothing you can go through that, it's just incredible.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to switch it up a bit here, Eric. Let's get a little bit into what you're doing over at Sky Towers Investments Limited. So first off, maybe tell us a little bit more about the company.
Okay, so this is very, very interesting. So back in 2 years ago, right, 2022, 2023, we were being introduced through our partner in Saudi Arabia. None of us have never been there. We really didn't know since pandemic. We really didn't know what's going on there, So our partner today in the Sky Tower Investments, which is Abdullah Malihi, and called us, says, you guys, you need to come over. We were like, what's going on? He says, there's a huge change in Saudi Arabia. Industrialization is going on. You got to come and see this. This is like 40 years ago what China has been doing. I was like, what? Because, we are in Houston, right? So in Houston, you see over the 40 years, you see many families go to Saudi Arabia or Middle East. They are all oil-related companies, right? You Shell, BP, anybody else, and the Amoco of the world, Samba J, you see. We have this neighborhood, many people that take the whole family go to Saudi Arabia for oil exploration, production, whatever it is. We only narrow-mindedly thought, Saudi Arabia, it's a production of oil. That's it. No one in the U.S. would understand the dynamic today presented to us in front of us from Saudi Arabia. That's the excitement that we here. So we were here 2 years ago. We immediately formed our Sky Tower investments from U.S., from the Houston, Texas company. We formed joint venture there. Within 2 weeks, the government approved our application. It was a green track. It was a green track. Normally you go to Saudi Arabia, you try to form investment company, the minimum would be about 12 months. Okay, so we went in there in 2 weeks. Ministry gave us green lights like you ever believe. One of the key elements here is that we actually was prepared to go. That is, our chairman, Neil Bush, was my chair, and we knew the Saudi Arabia to the United States, the embassy there, and we also knew the ambassador, Princess Rima. So before we actually went to Saudi Arabia, we went to Washington, D.C., to the office of the embassy. We met with Princess Rima, the ambassador. We actually asked for advice. This is probably the most important step we never did, we ever did. And we got the green light, we got the support like you ever believe. We thank Princess Rima for the whole thing that today as we evolve after 2 years of our work there. And it is every step of the way we reported to the ambassador what we did, right? So with that kind of a structure, not many people can have that structure, but with that kind of structure, we try to really focus to see if we can align ourselves to support the Vision 2030 and we call it the localization program.
Talk a little bit more about prioritizing your manufacturing investments under the Vision 2030. Tell us a little bit more about how you see that playing out or how that works in.
So if you're looking in the Saudi Arabia Vision 2030, which in the FII priority, basically that's a major theme, which is we call it the localization manufacturing localization. Now, if you take a side view looking at what China did in 40 years ago, and until today, what Saudi Arabia is trying to do, they are very similar. A country with one policy wants to do something right to its people. Then you're looking at how you can bring up the level of the leading standards. Without industrialization, you cannot bring the level of the leading standards. So therefore, if you just mimic what China did over 40 years with the U.S. support and help, I was the guy and our chairman Neil together, we on a separate path, we helped China from U.S. 40 years ago. Following the opening relationship, we brought everybody to China because we are the front runner. Nobody then, 40 years ago, many of the U.S. companies do not understand China. So they need the team in front of them to look at what can be done. The industrialization, the localization was in the very beginning of the Chinese development. So now if you shift that, look back to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia over about its industrialization early on into the oil, into we call it the petrochemical, which was established by U.S., right? If you look in the Saudi Aramco establishment, Saudi's establishment today, you realize, Adam, every minister, every director, every corporate structure or ministry structure people, they are proud to was associate their professional experience from Aramco or SABIC, because those are the only two large employer in Saudi Arabia to train generation by generation. So 40 years, 4 decades of training. So today, if you see from top to bottom, right, everybody's coming out of those two companies. So when you go to meet people there, they are very proud of their U.S. education. Of course, they have Saudi Arabia's own university, which, the United States help a lot. And then they are very proud to tell you, says, look, I speak perfect English. I am U.S. trained. I like to work with U.S. I like to work with the mentality. That's how industrialization could happen. Now, if you switch that subject to 40 years ago, how China did, it's exactly the model. What we try to do is when we helped China 40 years ago, now we spearheaded it to looking at, because this unprecedented Vision 2030 by MBS, we wanted to do some supportive work, right? Along the supportive work, you make money, you make a network, you make a friendship, you immerse yourself understanding culture. The difficulty is for people to immerse yourself in Saudi Arabia to understand the culture, so that you can help to drive that industrialization. So we love that Vision 2030 is because it's fundamentally needed. In order for industrialization going, you must have a basic manufacture. We call it fundamental manufacturing, right? With that, then you need to establish localization, but it is hard to build a localization without the foundation of we call it manufacturing game, right? Once you have the game, you can then bring the supply chain into that game, so that then you have your dream or fulfill your dream of industrialization. So localization of local manufacturing is a foundation for Saudi Arabia.
Wow, that's interesting. So seeing, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about, like, there's just, you think about the amount of opportunity that's going to be coming out there, especially under Vision 2030 and what's happening. As I've kind of gone through like further and further in this series of interviews and hearing from actually many different industries within there, there's just been this central theme of opportunity, right? Like there's opportunity for people that want to do business, for the people that want to create value, right? Like real value, there's opportunity.
Correct. If you're looking in today's Saudi Arabia, when you go in there, in Riyadh, in everywhere, we have been traveling in the last 2 weeks, 2 years, everywhere in Saudi Arabia, right? We establish our base. We establish our agreements with the local royal commissions and local cities for a purpose of helping them to industrialize their city, right? So manufacturing localization becomes the cornerstone or the foundation for society to grow up to a different level, right? You don't just simply do a trade. You actually produce something. That is important, right? So when you're looking at the industrialization, or we call it localization, how can you bring your next generation of employees, which is graduate from universities, colleges, and vocational schools, you give them the opportunity to work. That is what Saudi Arabia is driving. So today, you go to Saudi Arabia, it's like a place under construction everywhere. Yeah, you see the cranes, you see all the machines. It's like a mind-boggling. So that reminds me, 1990, when I first walked back to China. I was born in the 50s. I came out of 81 to U.S. Extend my study, and I finished my study 10 years afterwards. I never go back to China. So in 1990, I went back to China. My mind was blowing away by sheer fact that you saw that. So that image is replicated in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
Right? So industrialization will help the young generation, Adam. So now people, in Saudi Arabia, we have almost 70% less, it's 40 years and less, 65% 30 years and less. So they are very young. You the government create the opportunity for them to get hands-on work. It is very important. We are just part of the movement, helping them to establish the work opportunity. And while you're getting people employed, you get the country going different level.
Well, Eric, this has been, first off, I learned a lot. I'm hoping my audience learned a lot as well. This has been great. I appreciate you coming on the show today. And before I let you go, if somebody wants to learn more about Sky Tower Investments Limited or Connect, how do they do that?
They can go to our website called www.skytowersaudi.com. Or they can email, and they call it, we have a general email. You can email it to info@skytowersaudi.com, and they can always reach us. Right? We have a team to handle all the inquiries.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put the link in the show notes, so you can just click on the link and head right on over and check out the website. And speaking to the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Eric, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam.